StitchyTube, settle down and watch StitchyTube. Hello, Saturday, August 10th. There goes summer. It's just floating on by in a sweaty, miserable, sticky way. We are here in Mississippi. My name is Teresa. I am the Kitten Stitcher. I don't know if I'm the only one. I'm going to say I am Kitten Stitcher the first. If you want to come after me, you've got to be Junior. Kitten Stitcher Junior. This is StitchyTube 49, lucky number 49, and I learned from Homesteading on the Home Front this week that when you shoot video number and it's your age, it's your golden StitchyTube. This is my golden StitchyTube. I'm 49. I will be 50 in March, and so this will probably be my only golden one, I guess, unless I really slow down and I'm only making one a year, I guess. Let's hope that doesn't happen. So StitchyTube 49, such a lucky number, and here I am, feeling so golden. I haven't answered a lot of questions lately. I do get them from time to time, and I thought I'd answer a few that have kind of popped up recently that I thought I could talk about. Rhonda, by the way, I just made popcorn. It smells very good. So I'm going to eat some because I haven't had popcorn for a while and I was feeling like kind of munchy. It's good for you. Fiber. Rhonda asks, can you stitch a sampler on Ada? And I get that question a lot, so it's actually a good question to just put this information out there. Yes, you can. And it kind of depends on the sampler, but there are ways to work around it. So if you're doing a reproduction sampler and it's all cross stitch, just full cross stitches, and even some specialty stitches, no problem. You can do it on Ada. Sometimes you can turn specialty stitches just into regular cross stitches as well. The part where it gets tricky, and this is what people often ask about, is the over one sections. And if you don't know what over one is, I'm sure I have. I'm going to grab something. I'll be right back. I'm not going to edit this out. You're going to this is real time. Reality. This is reality, folks. I have these samplers just kind of still stacked around the house because, we had all this work done and I haven't hung everything back up yet. You know how you paint and the painter guy had his putty. So he puttied in all the holes and the paint looks perfect. And so now it's like pressure. There's pressure right here about where to hang all these things. Cause it's like once I pound a nail in the wall, there's a hole there. And the people who lived here before us, when we moved in, they had hung pictures up with screws, with pins and needles. They used needles to hang pictures. So the walls were a mess and we had never really painted most of them. Back to the question. Can you stitch a sampler on Ada? So this is my recent release, Carolyn Sire, and most of this is very appropriate to stitch on Ada. You could totally do it. The part where it gets tricky is the verses. And that's usually where you're going to get hung up with Ada on a sampler. So the original samplers were just usually stitched on linen, often very fine linen, and the words, to fit more words in a smaller space, were stitched over one thread. So instead of going over two threads, the stitches are actually quarter size, not half size. They're a quarter of what would be a block. I'm going to hold this up closer so you can see. See? Can you see how? Can you see? Can you see? The words are really, really tiny. And so then the problem is if you stitch them over, Ada on a full block, all of a sudden this line is twice as long and twice as tall. And it doesn't fit anymore. And so there are a couple of things you can do. You could put a different verse in there or just put enough of the verse to fit. The problem is that they're often a poem, and so now it doesn't really work anymore. The other thing that you can do, and have I done it? I'm sure I've done it. You can take a square of Ada and mentally divide it into 4. And so when you're looking at a graph and you see those over one stitches, they would take up a quarter of each square. I don't know if that makes sense. So you can do it. You just have to then poke a hole in the middle of each square and pretend that is over 2 threads each way. So it can be done. It's not easy, but it's not rocket science either. You can totally do it if you want to. A lot of the sampler reproductions that folks used to do back in the 70s when they would reproduce samplers to get around the over one verse is they would backstitch in the verse. I don't like the way that looks very much. It works though. I mean, it gets the words in a smaller space, but it's not authentic. So sometimes when you get these really old reproduction charts, you're going to see that the words are different than they would have been in the original. So I guess what I have a lot of people ask when they're looking at maybe a reproduction sampler chart to purchase is they say, is there any over one stitching in it? Some people just don't like to do over one stitching, which I understand because it's very fiddly. It's really nice though. It looks really good. And then some people stitch on Aida and don't want to bother. And so there are lots of samplers with no over one stitching. But if you're really in love with a sampler, there's totally a way to work around that. So that's a good question. I get that question all the time. There's Carolyn's sampler, very, very pretty. Very pretty, very summery. Do I dare leave it like this? You got to be so careful with cats around the house. If you leave, that looks like a good fun thing to scratch. I don't put glass on the front of my models because you can't see them that well. Okay, Cassandra asked, how long does it take to get fabric, like hand-dyed fabric, if you order it? This is also a good question. I'm going to try to be careful about how I answer this. Her question was like that she had contacted a shop and they told her, like, look, this is going to take a month or two to get in. And she didn't know if that was accurate, if it really takes the supplier that long to supply it, or if maybe the shop only orders it once in a while and they wait until they have enough to put an order together. Every shop is going to vary. So I will tell you what I know based on the way I order. Picture this plus. Wonderful fabric. Marilyn is a great lady. She sells a boatload of fabric. And so she's very reliable. You get all of your fabric when you get your order. Things have been very busy in the cross-stitch industry the last 2 years, and they continue to increase, I feel. And so I don't know how long it really used to take. They don't really keep much in stock anymore. They die as things are needed. And so when I put an order together with Marilyn, it might be for, I don't know, like 40 yards of fabric or something like that. And it typically takes me about a month to get it, give or take a week on either end. And she lets me know in advance that that's going to be the weight, and I know that it is, and so I know what to expect. And so I try with the popular colors to keep enough in, and once I start running low, that I reorder, knowing that it's going to take a few weeks to get that in. And so that's how that works. With R&R Reproductions Fabrics, another very busy fabric company, they distribute their linens through Hoffman Distributing. So the nice thing for me is I live just a hop, skip, and a jump away from Hoffman. They're in Alabama, I'm in Mississippi, and they're in Birmingham. And so if I place an order today by, like, let's say 1 o'clock, I will have it tomorrow by 3, which is awesome for me. They only list on their website anymore. I don't know about the other fabric companies, but for R&R Reproductions, if it's on the Hoffman website, generally speaking, that means that item is in stock right now. And they pull things down as they're not available. That way shops know that if they're ordering it, they can pretty much expect to get that fabric. And then they send out emails, every week or 10 days or so to say, hey, we just got a shipment in, and then you can run to the website and get what you need, and it sells out pretty quickly. So if it's R&R fabric, it takes me a day, but I don't order every day. I order about once a week, sometimes twice a week. Let's see, who else is there? Lakeside Linens, I don't know. I used to get Lakeside Linens quite a bit from Pat, and so I can't say what the wait time would be on that anymore. Typically you would expect a wait. All of these things, fabric, hand-dyed fabric, who was I talking? I was talking to Sue about it. Popcorn. I was saying that fabric is, you have to dye each piece. Like if I want to print more charts, I press a button and my printer shoots out more charts, and I have to pack them. But hand dyeing a piece of fabric obviously takes time, and if you're a company that's having to do hundreds of yards, that's a lot of work. Weeks Dye Works. Same thing. They're on Hoffman. I get some fabric from Hoffman, and then some of the colors Hoffman doesn't really carry, and so I place an order with Weeks, and they kind of trickle in as they do. I don't really keep track of how long it takes. typically pull things off my website if it's not in stock, just so people aren't like looking and going, oh, she doesn't have it. Typically, if it's on my website, it's in stock, and you can tell an item is out of stock if it says out of stock. If I order Weeks today from Hoffman, I have it tomorrow. If I order Weeks from Weeks, I may have it in a week, or I may have it in 6 weeks or 8 weeks. I don't know, and I don't know what their dyeing schedule looks like. So you could expect a wait there. Who else do I carry? Dames of the Needle. I get them from Hoffman as well, but I carry colors that Hoffman doesn't carry. In fact, I have them sometimes dye colors that they maybe don't normally dye, and they're very quick. Maybe 2 weeks. I get it from them. I'm now carrying the X Jude Designs fabrics. Those come all the way from Hungary. She is wonderful. She is super communicative, and if I place an order, really within 3... Now, this is her starting from scratch, like having none of it dyed. She has it, cut, dyed, ironed, folded, labeled, and in the mail to me, typically within 2 weeks, which is amazing. And I know she's got an Etsy store, and I believe that probably what she's got on her Etsy store is dyed and ready to go. She's very excited that y'all are excited about her fabrics. I've sold a lot of them, and I kind of hate that because when I get her fabrics in, I want to keep all of it. So some of you are getting things that I covet, but it is fun to see them go through here. And like I said, she's very, very nice. Am I forgetting anybody? I get Zweigert, just typical fabrics, things that aren't hand dyed from Yarn Tree, and if I order today, it'll be here in a week. Basically, I guess the answer is it varies. And it may vary based on the time of year. Sometimes a dye, a company announces that their dye has changed and then they have to reformulate a color. And so, sometimes it's frustrating to want to start a project and to feel like I got to find this exact fabric somewhere. With the internet these days, you can Google around and see if anybody's got it in stock. I think it's good for shops to be open with people, about hey, we don't have this in, and honestly, it's going to take us probably 6 weeks to get this. I always try to send people on. If I don't carry a fabric, I don't carry Lakeside Linens right now, I typically send people to the attic in Mesa, Arizona, because I know that she carries a lot of Pat's linens. And so if I can help people out that way, I try to. But so the answer is various amounts of time it takes to receive linens, and it just really depends on the time of year, the schedule. Some dyers have fabric colors that they will not dye at certain times of the year because of humidity levels. The dyes just don't work out very well. So that's what you got. Okay, and then I had a couple of people ask, what is that interesting cup holder that you have? See that little tan thing on the edge of my table there? I've talked about it in a previous video, but I realize you don't watch all of my videos. It is, somebody said it looks like a roll of tape. It is a roll of tape. It is a roll of tape. When we had Fitz here, he was notorious for knocking glasses over. I mean, he would just walk up and you couldn't even catch him fast enough, and he would just tip it over and your drink was all spilled. So I don't know, I got the brilliant idea one day to just put my cup in this on the table, and now I have these tape holders everywhere. It would be pretty hard for a cat to knock this glass over while my cup is in it. That's all that is. It doesn't keep it colder, but it does double function as a roll of tape, which you can use to pack things. I also have had some questions about the Blackbird Designs re-releases. Did I keep any of them here? Easter Parade. Here's one. I got a bunch of these in yesterday. I think I got 50, which is, I've already sold, I think, 55 of them or so. And then I got another 50 in yesterday. A bunch of these have already sold again. I emailed the people who had just asked me to let them know when it was back in stock. This is an old chart. It is from Blackbird Designs does it have the year on it still? 2005. So it's a 14-year-old chart. I think Chelsea might have stitched this one, which is why people were super interested in it. It's a very cute pattern. It's much sought after, and so they decided to re-release it. They did re-release a couple of other patterns. The winter one. Winter has passed. And then Farmhouse and Clara Ellen from the Anniversaries of the Heart series. And I believe they are re-releasing the stockings from the stocking series that have been out of print as well. They did need to reprint Easter Parade. It sold out within the first 2 days. So they printed again. I don't know how many. And I don't know what the plan is going forward. If this sells out again in a week, are they going to print another batch? I'm not sure. I do have to order them from Hoffman. And so if you have a shop and you're looking to get those, I would just send Rod an email at Hoffman to ask about the availability of those. But they go quickly. Everybody's kind of looking for them. I did have somebody say, do you have to worry about people, buying them as an investment to buy 8 of them and then sit on them and wait for them to go out of print and resell them on eBay? I hadn't really thought about that. I do think about that sometimes, but I really only have had a few people order 2, and I believe they're doing it to give one to a friend. I don't think people are trying to hoard them to sell later. That wouldn't be very nice. So that's all I know about the Blackbird Designs releases. I have people emailing, are they going to re-release this one or this one or this one or this one? I don't know. I don't know. I think these re-releases were the result of popular demand. I don't know if that is, direct to Blackbird or through the distributor, or just that they're just paying attention. I know some of their charts and books go for up to over $200 on eBay. And so it would be nice for them to re-release a bunch of things. I think there are a lot of people that would enjoy stitching them and seeing them. People maybe who are just coming back to cross stitch or who missed out the first time around would like to have a go at it. I think it's nice they're doing it at all. And so it's very enjoyable to see some of these old patterns come through. Okay. I've been thinking about this all year, and I feel like, and I mentioned this in my Stitch With Me video, August really gets me kind of hankering for autumn, and not necessarily back to school, but just kind of that kind of hunkering down and getting back to being busy with projects and things. And to me, it's a very sentimentally old-timey time of the year. I don't know if that makes sense. I always think of the 1800s in September. I don't know. A couple of you said, yeah, me too. Who knows why? Every year about this time in September, I watch Sleepy Hollow, the Tim Burton, Johnny Depp movie. And to me, I just love that vibe. The 1800s, kind of spooky, kind of, grim, a little silly, whimsical, witchy, spooky. But just kind of that I don't know, that late 1800s vibe, or 1800s vibe. So I am proposing, and I may be the only one who participates, that we name September Sampler September. And I know there are lots of groups that have, where you have Witchy Wednesday and things like that. So I'm not trying to compete with those. I just want to take a month to celebrate samplers. And so my proposal is that everyone who wants to participate either start stitching a sampler reproduction or work, make a concerted effort to work on a sampler reproduction that you have already started. And the hashtag on Instagram will be hashtag Sampler September. And so I'm hoping that we can share pictures of our works in progress, pictures of charts that we want to start or that we have just started, maybe stories about samplers that they have stitched, maybe pictures of antique samplers that you own that were, things that you bought in an auction or things that you found at a, store or that you've inherited. And then I plan on September, when I make videos, to share some of my antiques, maybe things that I've reproduced or things that I haven't, and just some stories about purchasing samplers, information about antique samplers and such. People have asked, are we ever going to do another issue of Samplers Yesterday and Today? Yeah, I've got one about half done. And Graham, my son Graham, is, this week was his first kind of sort of full-time week with me. Harrison will be moving out in a couple of weeks, and then I'll take over that room, and I've already got a new printer on order, and we're going to set up Harrison's room as the business room. This will be a room where then, once he's packing orders, answering emails, whatever, I can be in here making videos, reproducing things, working on the magazine, designing charts, that kind of a thing. I can't divide myself in enough pieces to get everything done. And so it's going to be nice to have the extra space and have him full time. So I don't know if I'll have the next issue out by the end of September, but it is in the works. I just wanted to let you know. So Sampler September, more information will follow. If you would like to stay kind of up to date on what's going on, you can go to kittenstitcher.com, and in the bottom right corner of the screen is a little box that you can put your email address in to get subscribed to my newsletter. And so that's what we're going to do. Okay, what am I all into? Okay, I usually like to show and tell for this part, like the actual thing that I'm all into. And so I'm super all into Ben & Jerry's has a new product in the ice cream section, and it's cookie dough bites. And you can get peanut butter, or you can get chocolate chip. And basically, it's cookie dough in small balls that's frozen in a pouch. And it's a zipper pouch. So you can just shake a few in your hand and eat them. And we saw them at Target. It's a brand new product. And I would show them to you, but I ate them all. And it's a tiny pouch. And so I'll get some more later. But they're really good. And it seems weird. But I have seen like at Sam's Club and other places, they're starting to sell cookie dough, edible cookie dough in containers in the refrigerated section. And I'm assuming that they leave the egg out, or the egg is treated in such a way that you don't get sick from it. But I love the idea of the frozen thing. And I love the idea of little pieces of something. I had been super into the Russell Stover. They're like pecan chocolate caramel bites. And they come in a little pouch. And sometimes I just need like a little chocolate every day. And I liked that it was just a small portion. And for some reason, that small portion like satisfied. It was chewy, a little bit crunchy. My mouth is getting watery. I can't find it right now. I don't know if the place I was getting it is not going to carry it anymore. So these cookie dough little things, they're good. I'm into them. I'm also into getting ready for Galleria, and I'll talk more about that in a minute, but I got a huge shipment in. When we cleaned out the house and did all this renovating, I had moved a bunch of things into the garage and was going to get those put away, and I still can't park my car in the garage because it's now got a pallet of stuff for Galleria. And one of the things that I got in, and I'm totally saving myself one this year, is these giant mason jars. And I didn't take the sticker off the bottom yet. I don't know if you can really see. So it is a giant mason jar with a really nice lid. And I sold these last year, and I think I maybe only got a dozen of them. And I sold them out immediately. Farm Girl got one and carried it around, and everybody was like, where did you get that? I got 40 of them this year. I don't know that I could really carry more because they come in a pretty, padded box so that they don't break. But she filled hers with all kinds of stitchy goodness, and it just looks so cool. And everybody wants to be like Michelle, Rudy, Farm Girl. So that's mine. That one's mine. I'm into Simply Vintage magazine. I got a subscription this month, and I ordered some back issues on their website. Let's see. This one is from spring 2014. I think this was an older one that I had. Simply Vintage Quilts and Crafts. I think it's a French company. And it's a really nice heavy-duty magazine. And they've got articles about like cool antique shops, artisans, make quilts and applique. And there is some like primitive stitchery and things like that in it. It's just a really well-done magazine. And I got a subscription. I ordered a subscription online, and so I'll get it once a quarter. But it's really, I brought a few just to show you kind of what they look like. You can find them on eBay sometimes too, old issues, if you're looking to kind of complete a collection. I just look to see if there are any that it's like, oh, this is the newest issue right here. You can kind of see some of the projects. It's just really fun. The pictures are pretty, and it's just a really well done magazine. So there you go. There you go. So Simply Vintage magazine. I'm into taking baths again, which is weird because it's August and it's hot. It's really hot. But it's cool inside, and for me, I've always been kind of a bath person. I grew up in a house where we just took baths. I think you either are or you aren't a bath person. And either way, it's okay. So I started taking baths again. I kind of see it as putting yourself in timeout. At least it is for me. Because sometimes I'll be like, oh, you know what? I'm going to just sit and stitch now. But then I'm like, well, you know what? I'm going to check my email one more time. And then I check my email and I go, oh, you know what? I'm going to wait and see if any orders have come in or if anybody has questions. Oh, you know what? That shipment came in. I'm just going to put that up real quick. When I take a bath, there's nothing I can do but sit in water in the nude reading. And so a lot of times I'll take a magazine in because it doesn't, if they get wet, it's not a big deal. I did pick back up Moby Dick again. I had put it down and I was like, oh, do I bail on it? It is so good. It is so good. I just read a chapter where he was talking about how with kings and, royal people, we anoint their head with oil. And he wonders why that is. Are they like a salad? Are they like a lettuce? I just thought that was so funny. It's a very well written book. I'm very glad to be back at it. It's very well done. Okay, I'm all into wearing jeans again. I got kind of blubbery the last, 5 years. I thought I had fibromyalgia. We couldn't get on top of things. I was so tired all the time. I've actually lost 13 pounds this year already, which is awesome. And the other thing I've noticed is I'm debulking. So I feel like not only have I lost 13 pounds, I feel like my body is changing back to what it used to be. And so where I had been wearing leggings because I just couldn't get comfortable in jeans anymore, I'm back in my jeans, which I love. I love wearing jeans. I've always loved wearing jeans. And people used to be shocked when they'd come to my store and I'd be like in jeans and a t-shirt. They're like, aren't you a lady? Yeah, I like jeans and t-shirts, so that's what I wear. So I'm super excited about wearing jeans. I have old favorites that are one size down that I'm so excited to get back into. So maybe by the end of the year, that'd be great. I'm all into Flight of the Conchords, which I don't know if y'all know who they are. They're a New Zealand musical/comedy duo. And Flight of the Conchords was a television show on, HBO maybe? I want to sit and watch a bunch of them this weekend. They are so funny, and they create these musical songs as opposed to non-musical songs that are just kind of funny, some pop culture-y. They're just really funny. Now, some of them are off color. I'm going to put a link to all the ladies of the world below. So if you want to watch that to get their vibe, it's like a 1970s roller skating vibe to it, and it's very funny. It's slightly off color, so if you get super easily offended, maybe don't watch it, but if you just need a silly laugh, it's very goofy and funny to me. And then the last thing I'm all into was somebody sent me a link and they said, hey, the new Mr. Rogers movie is almost out. And it's Tom Hanks as Mr. Rogers. And I didn't know how I felt about it. I went and watched the the preview, the trailer to see, and I'm not sure if I'm going to watch it. The problem is Tom Hanks seems like a terribly nice person. He always gets involved with great projects, but I can't look at Tom Hanks and not think, there's Tom Hanks. It's always Tom Hanks. It's Tom Hanks as this character, but it's always Tom Hanks. You know what I mean? Like, I can't separate him from what he's doing. Johnny Depp, is kind of a chameleon where he can look different in different costumes with different makeup. Tom Hanks is 100% Tom Hanks. And so I was talking to my son about it, and I said, it's funny because he used to be, hey, that's that guy from Bosom Buddies. And Harrison was like, I don't know what that is. And I was like, you've never heard of Bosom Buddies? And he was like, no. And I started describing it to him, and I was like, you know what? We're going to just watch the opening of Bosom Buddies. And I'll put the link to that below as well. We watched it, and I don't know if you remember, it's like the story is that it's two guys, and they can't afford to live in New York City. They're roommates, but they get a tip that there's a hotel, or it's like an apartment complex, but it's only for women, but it's in their price range. So they dress up as, I think, Buffy and Hildegard every day, but then they also are themselves sometimes, and then they're Buffy and Hildegard's brothers. And that's the plot, is that they're basically in drag for this show. And we watched it, and when it finished, Harrison said, that's almost like it's not real. Like somebody created that as a joke. And I said, it was a popular show. And then after the show, kind of ended, it was always, for the first few years, it's like, oh, there's the guy from Bosom Buddies. And then he finally became Tom Hanks, like he did Big or whatever, and then he was popular. But anyway, I'll put the link below. That's what I'm all into this week. Got a call from an old friend. We used to be real close. You'll have to watch the thing below. It's very funny. Okay, I didn't work on much the last week. I've just been so busy. But I did, if you watched my Hang With Me video, I did make some more progress on Reverend Gordon Squashbottom. And there he is. That's by Not Forgotten Farms. I've got a bunch of her charts up. I had to start it because his name is Reverend Gordon Squashbottom. And then Harrison had a good point and said, is that the pumpkin man or the cat? Maybe the cat is the Reverend Gordon Squashbottom. And I actually prefer that. I am converting it to just some limited edition, you know, random threads that I get through like my thread clubs that I belong to. And it's turning out real cute. I thought since I didn't really have an FFO to share, I would share just a previously finished thing. Which is really one of my favorites, and I don't think I've ever shown it before. It is this one. And you'll never guess who it's by if you don't already know. It's by the Good Huswife, and it's called June Morning. And it's such an unusual piece because it's not like any of her other things. The colors are brighter. It's kind of quirkier. It's just not very similar to anything else she's done. And I did it on an R&R fabric that has faded a little bit. It used to be more the color of the frame, but it's just in DMC. And it was fun to stitch. I think this is a 32 count, maybe ink spot black, which they don't dye anymore. And I don't think the chart is super available anymore. Anne from the Good Huswife has an Etsy shop, but the last time I looked, this chart is not available yet. Maybe she'll be able to bring it back out someday. But June Morning. Even though it's August, I thought I'd share that one with you. It's cool. I got into this for a while. I think Ruth Sparrow from Twisted Threads, I think she was dating the guy from Eastside Molding maybe. And so she started using a lot of his frames and they would do these double frames, which I think are really cool. It kind of made them more expensive, but it's such a great look. You know, just these kind of primitive painted wood frames with the little one on the inside. And so the back is just a frame. I think I probably just glued this frame into the rabbet of the other frame to make it a double. I really like it. So that's that one. Okay, I had a contest last time to win a sampler book, and the winner of that book is Sandra Cubbins. I'm sorry. She collects chickens, and she also lives in Mississippi. And so, Sandra, you have won last week's giveaway of the sampler book. And so just my email address will be below. Email me your address, and I'll pop it in the mail. I do have a giveaway for next time, and it is these two sampler company charts. I get freebies from some of the people that send me things, and she sent me these to give away or to keep or sell or whatever, and so I'm giving them to one of you, both of these charts. This one is called the Sisters Sampler, and this one is called the Patience Sampler, and sometimes you have to be patient when you have, so that's all I'm going to say about that. So the question then is going to be, since we're talking about sitcoms, what is one of your favorite sitcoms? Either can be current or, you know, past sitcom. I was talking about Flight of the Conchords, I guess, which is a great sitcom. I'm trying to think, you know, Happy Days. I always really enjoyed watching Happy Days like in the early years as a child. And I think Harrison and I were talking about Happy Days at one point earlier this year. And he said, was that really even a good show? And I was like, you know what? It kind of was. It kind of was a good show until Richie left. And then it's never the same. Once the main character leaves, it's pretty much over. I was not really an Office person or like Seinfeld. Like sometimes I liked it, but I get super stressed when people get themselves into trouble. So when there's a lot of bumbling and like misunderstood things and people like maybe lying and then getting into hot water and then it's like all like awkwardness, I struggle with that. I don't always find it funny. It just makes me go, right? I guess I like more just kind of silliness. By the way, if you like Paul Rudd, he is, gotten to be a famous actor. Like he was on Anchorman and he's Ant-Man. He redid recently the introduction to Bosom Buddies, and you can see that on YouTube as well. He played Tom Hanks' character, and they just reshot the intro to that show shot for shot. It's very funny. So what's your favorite sitcom, current or past? If you're not super into sitcoms but you still want to enter, just tell me what your favorite show is. Okay, I thought I'd share 10 things that are on my to-do list for Galleria, since Galleria is coming up. It's a show in St. Charles, Missouri in September. So I've got about like a month and a week or so to get ready to go. And it's a big show. I think last year it was over 400 people maybe came. Some people come just for the shopping and some people come to do classes. And they have numerous stitching lounges, and people just had a great time. It was a very well-run show. One of the things I have to do is rent a van. And it's going to be kind of my new go-to, which is to rent vehicles to go to some of these shows. When I go to Nashville, I'm not going to take my own car anymore. I feel like that puts mileage on my car for no real good reason. I'm going to rent somebody else's car and put miles on that. I'm still looking at getting a new car this month. I have my eye on a used Mini here in town, and so I've got to see if that's going to work out or not. So I got to rent a van. I usually do U-Haul, and I get a cargo van. I'll get a cargo van this time. I filled it last year. It will be full again this year. I may have to pack a little bit more. I just got to take as much as I can. So I got to rent the van. I do that online. It's very easy. All that stuff is very easy these days. And second thing on my list is to choose my models and then order the charts for those. It's tricky. I had, I don't know, I want to say like I had like 150 models or so at my shop pretty much at any one time. Sometimes I sold them or gave them away. I don't know, there might have been a few that I donated for different things or whatever, but so I look around in my stitching room, in the attic, other places I've got pictures, and I already made the list, and I've started to get some of those charts on order. It's tricky because you're like, how many do I order? You know, if there are going to be 400 people at the show, how many of any one chart is appropriate to take? If you have a model, you may not sell any charts, but you might sell a lot. Last year, and I'm going to leave the screen again because this is reality. This is reality, folks. Me walking away. Uh-oh. I don't think I'm going to be able to get it. Can I? No. Well, you know what? I am going to shut this off because I want to get this and show it to you. I'll be back in a second. I had to shove my mouth full of popcorn again. Okay. I had to actually go to the other end of the house to get my step stool. This piece I took last year. I had just finished it and framed it. It is by the Primitive Hair. It is called Spooky Countdown. I think as of like right now, I have one in my shop. I have oodles more on order. And Izzy was she was like on vacation last week, so she'll probably be shipping these in a week or so. I'm going to have to order more now because you guys are going to want this one. I'll get more on order. I think I took like maybe 15 of these last year, and I could have sold 3 or 4 times that many. So I ordered a bunch. It's super fun to stitch. Every day has like a little, and the thing is like little squares like this, you could just, I used to sit down and do one for lunch every day when I worked at Barnes & Noble. During my lunch break, I would stitch a little square. So it's very cute. It's just in DMC. I used a piece of, I have no idea, probably one of my linens. And I think the frame is perfect. I got it at Neblets. But it's a very, very cute piece. So anyways, like I said, some of the things I won't sell any charts, or I will sell all of them. And there's no way to know what's going to like be the big winner this time around. This one was hanging near the checkout last time, and I feel like it was in a place where as people were standing in line, it was kind of at face level or slightly above. It just was in a good spot. It is very cute, and it's not something that you see everywhere. And you obviously could use like various over-dyed threads to, I just want to make sure this is on, yes, to stitch this too, or change some of the colors up if you want. Very fun. It was fun to stitch. Super fun to stitch. I did it on 40 count over 2 threads with 1 thread. Okay, I have to go up in the attic and start pulling down display pieces. Over the years, I have collected lots of just different display pieces kind of as I went. And I remember when I first set up my first shop, I went to, just like thrift stores, and there was kind of like an antique store in Fargo that was really not, it wasn't like high quality antiques. It was just kind of old stuff that is all the kind of stuff we would like now. So like this bin down here that was probably an old like drawer from a kitchen cabinet or something. It's got a brass handle on it in the original chippy pink paint. I probably paid $8 for that or $5 for that. I got a bunch of those kind of things for my shop. I got like a dresser drawer that I put legs on that I stood up in a corner. I got at another place I got like a potting bench for like $40, and that was all decorated out with Lizzie Kate stuff. My store was really cute. I'll have to see if I can find some pictures of that first store of mine. It was in an old building from the 1800s with wood floors that we refinished. I had old window panes antique window panes hanging from the ceiling to be a divider. It was really cute. And when my mom came to the shop the first time, she was like, I had no idea you could put this kind of thing together. It was very cute. I lost my lease because the store next door that didn't want to renovate the space, once I renovated it, they were like, oh, we'd kind of like that space. And they'd been there longer. And so when my lease was up, the rental company just slid a note under my door one day that said, we're not renewing your lease. So they must have got a better offer or whatever. I thought it was a pretty crappy thing for them to do, but such is life. So I have to pull down all these display pieces. I get things at Hobby Lobby or I find them at thrift stores, and I just got to decide what I'm going to take for my models. And this includes things like drapings for tables, baskets, boxes, just things that I'm going to display my things in. I try to make it look really cute, and I try to make it like a shop experience as much as possible. It's not just utility. I want it to look cute and inviting and, quirky and interesting. And so it's kind of the one time of year that I really can truly play shop as I would want to have a shop set up. I have had people ask, like, hey, do you ever plan on opening a store back up? At this point, not really, especially not in Hattiesburg. I had a store here for, 8 years or something, and I would have whole days go by with nobody coming in. It was mainly an online business, then I just happened to have a storefront. And I thought it was a pretty cute little shop and everything. It kind of ties you down, and there's no financial benefit to me. It would cost me money to have a store because all of a sudden I'd be paying, rent, electricity, internet, insurance, just all of those things that go along with having a storefront. Plus cleaning a bathroom. I clean my own bathroom, but whatever. Okay, number 4 is dye fabric. I'm going to take a bunch of fabric that I hand dye again this year. I have a lot more fabric than I did last year at this time, and so I will be taking fabric from the other companies too. So I may not have to dye quite as much. I did sell almost all of it last year that I took. The nice thing this year is I'm not having to pre-order much. I'm going to basically just take my website down, take as much as possible. And but the fabric I'll have to cut into pieces. So I'll keep some halves and some quarters and maybe some whole yards even, and price things out like that. Okay, number 5, price like everything. And that's something Graham is working on now. This week he priced all of the Brenda Gervais charts. He priced all of the Prairie Schooler charts. And so he's just going designer by designer. And the nice thing is he's checking my inventory as he goes to make sure that it jives with my website. It's really strange. My website is such that when I have a product in stock or I get something new, if I get 6, I put that I have 6. And then once I run out of 6, it only lets people buy 6, supposedly. I have had it happen where all of a sudden it shows as a -1, that I have -1 of something, which I don't know how that would happen. And sometimes it'll say I have some left that I don't. And it's not like there's a ton of us working here. And while we do make occasional mistakes, we don't make a ton of mistakes. And so I don't know why those numbers over time get inaccurate, but they do. Sometimes Wix will temporarily go down, maybe even for 10 minutes. And maybe there's something where the counter doesn't work for just a little bit. I'm not sure. So that's great. And the way I price things, I like to keep my products fresh so that when you're getting them, everything is in tubs or in my file cabinets. It's not being touched by anybody but me or Graham. So I get it in, it immediately goes into something where it is protected. And when you get it, it hasn't been, banged around in a spinning rack or held by a lot of customers. So you're getting a pretty fresh, clean copy. So I hate stickers on the front of charts, so what I do is we put them on the back of the chart in the bottom right corner, and that way the front of the chart looks really fresh. So if I bring them back, if I send them out to people, that you're not going to have that icky sticker on the front. And it's just a tiny sticker, but still. I got to talk to Lori from La Di Da. I'm actually doing a trunk show with her stuff, which is cool. I picked out like maybe 30 or so of my favorites of her charts. And she said she has most of her models. She's got a friend of hers that's coming to the show and is going to actually help me and bring me all the models and the inventory of the charts. And so I have mostly picked those out, but we need to kind of iron out some of the details yet. So I'm excited to have a trunk show. Lori did go last year, and this year she didn't, but then next year she's like, maybe next year I could go, but then maybe I could, share part of your booth with you, which would be fine. Okay, number 7 is I gotta I got to plan the layout of the room. Last year, for those of you who don't know, it's in an Embassy Suites. And if you've ever, whether or not you've ever stayed at an Embassy Suites, the way they're laid out is there's a back room where you sleep, a bathroom, and then a front, it's like a living room. It's got a TV and usually like a desk with 2 chairs, a couch and a chair and a couple of lamps. So what you do is you just, put some of that furniture in the back or cover it, turn it into other things, and you basically set it up like it's a shop. The problem last year was with 400 people at the show, and my booth was pretty busy all the time. It was most of the show that you really couldn't squeeze in unless you were pretty determined to get your behind in there. So I asked Kathy last year, I said, is there any way I could get like a double booth next year, or could I get a bigger room? And so what she's done for me this year is I'm actually renting, I think it might be called like a conference room. So I'm not on the main floor. I'm 1 floor down, right off the elevator. And it's going to be a huge room that is the size of an entire suite. So it's as if there was a, bathroom, bedroom, living room, but there's no walls or partitions. I think there is a bar, which we can use for checkout, but I need to find out like what the size of that room is, what furniture comes with it, and so what I'll need to bring, or if I need to rent more tables. So I got to kind of, in my mind, I'm kind of seeing it already, but I got to figure out what that's all going to look like. I will have more room this year, so hopefully all of you can get in there. Number 8 is I'm looking for volunteers. I've had a few so far. If you're coming to the show and you'd like to come help for maybe like an hour or 2, I would love to have your help. I will pay you in stuff and stash. And so you would be doing things just like writing up tickets and maybe taking cash or something like that. Or just, answering questions, whatever. It's not going to be anything tricky. It's just Graham and I only have 4 hands between the 2 of us. And last year, we literally could not process invoices fast as demand was. And so we just need more hands. My friend Jennifer is coming and she's going to help too. And so that'll be great. But she's going to want to run out and do stuff too. So if you want to help set up or help during the show or whatever, I would super appreciate it. Number 9. Okay, I have to start getting my supplies together. And this actually brings me to, Ruby says no. Somebody asked about this. They saw this sitting on the floor. They said, is that a lunchbox? This is my Muppet Show lunchbox from when I was a child. It's one of the old metal. I don't have the thermos anymore. How awesome is that? I love the Muppet Show. And of course, old Sesame Street too. Really, the cutoff for me is Elmo. Can't take Elmo. Jim Henson was wonderful. And so I use this actually for, here's Stadler and Waldorf. And in the audience. I keep change in there. And that kind of serves as my cash box during the show. But I have to get supplies together, and you have to like just sit down and be like, what all do I need to take? Because inevitably you forget something. So it's things like, tape and command strips to hang the things to the walls. Even just things like, paper towels and some cleaner in case something's dusty and you want to clean it off. There's like a whole box of just, pens and invoices and all of that kind of stuff that I'll need to bring. And so I have to sit down, make that list, and then just kind of start a tote that'll just be everything that I need. And then the last item, I was like, oh, can I come up with the 10th item? Yes, the 10th item is I need to make a sign. I've been in the industry such a long time. I started going to Nashville as an exhibitor like 13 years ago. And at the Embassy Suites, there are railings that face towards the atrium, and people get these signs that they have professionally finished that are hanging over the edge that say like the name of the shop. I just really need to get one of those made. And so I need to get my rear end gear and do that probably this week so that it's done in time for the show. And basically it'll just say Shakespeare's Peddler and just to hang over the banister. And so that'll be a good thing to do. I'll feel like the real deal once I get a sign, I guess. There were a few times we made a handmade sign when we were Raise the Roof Designs, when Sue and I did that. And we just threw them away at the end of the show. There was, I don't know if I've told this story before. There was a show where, everybody puts these signs over the banister. And there was a show where there was a wedding party. There was a wedding on, like, let's say Saturday, but Friday night was wild. The young people, the dudes, I think had a bachelor's party of some sort. And so they were running around the hotel. Well, they saw all these signs from the needlework show. And they hung a sign over the banister made from a hotel's bed sheet and a Sharpie marker that said, needle pointers will poke anything, as kind of an off color, like, making fun of all the people at the show. Some people were very upset about that. I thought it was kind of funny. You shouldn't ruin things that aren't yours, but they were young and drunk and whatever. It didn't super hurt anybody. The funny thing about it, kind of the I got you thing about it, is that they had taken the sheet off the bed. They got a huge Sharpie marker from somewhere, and when they wrote that needle pointers will poke everything on the sheet, it bled through to the carpet. So now it said that on the carpet, and they got charged to replace the carpet in that room. So that's what you get. All right, a little bit of my stash flash. I got a few fun things since the last time I talked to you. I got my Color and Cotton Floss Club colors again. Very pretty, very pretty. And so you get 5 of those. And then Victorian Motto Sampler Shop. I got these 2, and I suppose my fabrics may be on the way because I belong to their fabric clubs too. But I am actually using some of the Victorian Motto threads on this Reverend Gordon Squash Bottom, and they're very nice to work with. The thing that I wasn't crazy about with these, it's a lot of thread, so you get like 10 yards, which I am crazy about. They're tied with this little thing, so like the thread goes up and through, and so you've got the bent end here and then the loose end. But once you take it apart, you can't do that little tuck thing where you put the loop through and then pull the ends through and do this because it's too bulky. What I found, and I'm sure someone said this at some point, I don't even know why I thought to do it. You can actually just, if you can grab one strand, if you pull it carefully, you can just pull one strand right out of there while it's still tied, which is amazing. You have to be careful. Just do it slowly, but even I was careful enough to do that. I went to Hobby Lobby the other day. When I label fabric, I use cardstock that I punch out with a punch. And I try to get like pretty things that are either kind of old looking or seasonal. So I thought I maybe would go find some cardstock in a, like a paper pack in the scrapbooking section that would be like autumn themed. And unfortunately, I didn't really. They had some Christmas ones that were out, but I still have some Christmas. And I didn't really see anything that I might go check at Michael's or something. But as long as I was there, if you're going to go to Hobby Lobby. By the way, all of their Christmas stuff is there. They were hanging up glass ornaments to beat the band. And the only one that I saw out of the corner of my eye was a glass ornament, the glass ornaments, and it was a ketchup bottle. And I was like, well, that's specific. I know some people do food trees. It would be kind of fun, wouldn't it? To have a food tree. Anyway, I didn't stop in the Christmas because I can't. It's 103 degrees outside. I'm sorry. I can't do it. But the Tim Holtz ideology stuff in the scrapbooking section was 40% off this week. And these come as a 2-pack, these little tins. I think they normally sell for $6. So they were $3.60 for the two tins. And they're brand new tins. They just look like an old-fashioned tin. And I've looked at them before and thought they were really neat. And so I got one of each. And they're decorated all the way around. Just not on the inside. So it would be fun to make a little padded bottom or maybe stitch a little something and make a little something box. And then this, if I had seen it before, I didn't notice it before. This is also Tim Holtz. And this was $6. So again, it was $3.60. But you get 8 of these. And I thought it was so cool. I don't know. I'm sure you do. We're all old, right? Are we all old? I know some of you aren't old, but you'll be old someday, like the rest of us. They're very heavy duty, and they are like the little mats that they used to put around old photographs. You know how when you got your picture taken in a studio, they would give you like a thick paper mat that would go around your picture. So they are those, and I'm assuming they're, reproductions of antique ones. And I'm sure they're for, like making, scrapbooking things or whatever. This one is really cool. So, but it's very, very sturdy. And so I think you definitely could stitch something and put it in there. I don't know what I would do with it then. I just thought it was neat. And, you know, kind of sometimes when you see something like that you're like, oh, that's really cool. You don't get it and you say, you know, next time I go, I'll pick it up. And then next time they don't have it anymore. So this was just one of those things that I thought kind of put in my hat for later. That's Mustache Flash. That is Mustache Flash Ruby. Okay. I'm going to talk about three things in my shop. And then I will let you go. I guess I was going to talk about the Blackbird reprints, but I already did. So I'm going to talk about Chessie and Me. I'm going to see if I can remember to do it this time. I forgot last time. I'm going to flash some pictures here of Chessie and Me. Linda Lautenschlager lives in Wisconsin, I want to say. Yes. And she's very, very nice. She teaches a lot of classes, and her things are always very tiny and like gadgety. Like she makes a lot of needle rolls, pincushions, fobs, things like that. But then she does sampler reproductions and other types of charts too. So a couple weeks ago, I was remembering that once upon a time, I stitched a piece called The Goblins'll Getcha. Here. And it was a chart from a long, long time ago. And I stitched it, and it was fun, and it turned out really cute. That's not a picture of the one I stitched. It is her from her cover. And I stitched it for an exchange through the Embroiderers Guild. And I was like, I wonder if you can still get that chart. Because I talked like that in my head, like really high pitch. And I contacted her. I said, Linda, can I still get the Goblins'll Getcha chart? And she said, of course you can. But of course the distributors don't have it anymore because it's older. And I said, well, what else can I still get? And she said, well, pretty much anything. And I said, really? And she said, I'll send you a list. And I said, well, do you have pictures anywhere that I can see all of these charts? And she said, not really. She used to take a book of photographs to the shows, and you could flip through, and she had each one labeled with a photograph of each project. I don't know if she does that anymore. But she has a blog, but not everything that's old is on her blog. And this Goblins chart is from 15, 16 years ago, probably. So she sent me a list that was like 5 or 6 pages long of old designs of hers, most of which are difficult to find. I Googled to see what I could find. And I mean, I was looking on blogs, I was looking on Pinterest, I was looking on eBay sold items, Etsy, other shops to see if they had them up. I was looking for, name by name. I looked at all these charts and I picked out my favorites and loaded my shop. And a bunch of them have sold out, but there are more on the way. And she was like, holy cow, you sold a lot of charts. It's like, yeah, but you can't find these anywhere. And this is what I'm trying to do now, which is to beef up some of the sections of my site. So it's really, I've got everything that is like, that you are going to want to have. And so I've got a whole bunch of Linda stuff and more is on the way. Goblins sold out immediately, but I have more on the way. Another thing that I've got in my shop right now, Ruby, where did I put it? Oh, here it is. Once a year, Ganger brings out scissors that are a different pattern. This is this year's pattern and it's called Juniper. They're decorated scissors, very heavy duty, good snippy embroidery scissors. They come with a little sheath and it's a limited edition thing. Some of these just sell out quickly and some of them go for a lot of money later on eBay because people are trying to complete their collection. The Juniper scissors just arrived yesterday. I have 25 pair. I don't know if I'll be able to get more, but they're on my site. And another thing then that I will share with you is that I got back in touch with a distributor I used to work with a lot back when I had my shop. And I said, hey, I used to have an account with you guys. This is Witchell Imports. Can I still order? I said, I know my number, my customer number. And she said, well, that'll be helpful. And she looked me up. She goes, oh yeah, you're still here. Is this still your address? I said, yep, sure is. And she said, well, we just need a new card number for you and a new expiration date. So I did that and bada bing, bada boom. I was up and running. And so one of the reasons I wanted to get with them was to order charts from the Drawn Thread with Cynthia Z. And I don't know if it's Zittel. I don't know that I've ever heard anybody say it. I think it's Zittel, Zittel or Le. Very talented designer. I've always loved her patterns. They have a lot of like specialty stitches and things like that. I actually have one. Hang on just a second. This is the third time I'm getting up. That's the kind of energy you're getting in these videos, people. I am willing to walk to another section of the room and reach. I think I probably will take this one with me. This is called Autumn Arbor, and there was a series of 4 of them. If you like Jeanette Douglas, some of them are very similar to that. Like this one has got specialty stitches for the trees. It was really fun to do. But she has really, really cute charts. A lot of them are seasonal, and I just love her Halloween and her Christmas things, and so I got a lot of it. I'm trying to remember how many of her charts I got in. I got like 45 different charts or something yesterday or the day before. They're all up on my site now. Very reasonably priced charts. If there are specialty stitches, they are clearly diagrammed and easy to follow. I have more that they were out of that are on the way, but I think you're really going to enjoy them if you like the other things I carry that's right in that same vein. Kind of samplery, not necessarily prim, but just really, really pretty pieces and pretty timeless too. So those are 3 things from my shop. Ruby, do you think that's all we have to talk about today? She's going to lick her paw. Things will be changing around here soon. Harrison is leaving for Denver graduate school at the end of the month. And so that's going to be sad because, you know, we've had somebody in the house for 28 years now, and we will finally be empty nesters. And so in one way that's exciting, but in another way it's very sad because, you know, you hate to see somebody you love go, but we're very excited for him and his experience in Denver. He has a good place lined up to live that's just a mile from the university, and he's already excited looking at, you know, exploring what businesses and restaurants are near him, and I'm sure he's going to have lots of adventures and make some good new friends and really find graduate school to be really fulfilling. He's studying psychology specifically to be a counselor, which is really great. That's what we've got for this week, people. It is good to be here. It is good to be anywhere. And I hope that you have a chance this weekend to get together with some of your bosom buddies, with actual bosoms and not fake bosoms. See you next time.